Hello, financial explorers. Welcome back to Cam Calderon PhD, where we spice up finance and economics with a dash of fun. Today we are stepping into the shoes and minds of the Fed's finest, Susan M. Collins, Austan Goolsbee, and Tom Barkin. This is a little bit about behavioral economics and how this impacts the markets. Let's see how these economic wizards play the game. Meet Susan M. Collins, the chess master of monetary policy. With each move, she carefully weighs her option, balancing risk with precision. Picture her strategizing in a grand game of chess where each pawn and knight is a critical economic indicator. Next up, Austan Goolsbee, our professor cook. In Austan Kitchen, recipes are economic forecasts and spices are data points. Watch him masterfully mix ingredients to whip up the perfect fiscal feast, ensuring every policy dish is seasoned to economic perfection. And don't forget about Tom Barkin, the road-tripping Fed president. Tom's not content sitting behind desks. He's out there on the road, camera in hand, gathering stories and insights directly from the heartbeat of America's businesses. So, why you should care about these diverse styles? Because they're steering the economic ship through uncertain waters. Whether it's Susan's strategic moves, Austan culinary economics, or Tom's grassroots journey, they are all crafting policies that affect our markets and our money. What do you think about our financial navigators? Drop a comment below and let us know who you think handles the economic waves the best. And if you enjoyed this fun financial breakdown, smash that like button so I will know I can carry on covering the other 9 Fed chairs or the Fed presidents. Like button, subscribe for more, and hit the bell to stay updated on our latest adventures in finance. So let's dive into the thoughts of Austan Goolsbee, president of the Chicago Fed. Note that I am just taking some of the speeches or recordings that I have seen during this week. So we are covering here May 10, a question and answer with Austan Goolsbee at the Economic Club of Minnesota. So Goolsbee kicked things off with a fascinating perspective on inflation expectations. Even when actual inflation spiked nearly to 10%, long-term expectations stay anchored around 2%. This shows the market's belief in the Fed's ability to manage inflation. That is fine, that was true. It's like it is like even in a storm. The ship's compass is pointing steady towards the 2% island, so everything's so far there. But here is where everything gets spicy. Despite a high inflation peak, Goolsbee pointed out that the Fed needs to conquer not just the inflation, but the public's perception about future inflation, dubbed as the Volcker's effect. I think he's very concerned about the Volcker effect, meaning that we can have another thunderstorm in inflation if the Fed hesitates. Imagine trying to calm down a room full of cats during a thunderstorm. That's the Fed's trying to manage these expectations, and that is why it needs to manage all the expectations. Goolsbee remains optimistic about controlling inflation without harsh measures. He compares the situation to a bump of the road emphasizing the importance of the Fed's communication with the market. It's less about immediate threats, more about steering the economic car smoothly on bumpy road. And for the economic nerds out there, Goolsbee threw in a fascinating tidbit about the interaction between inflation, job creation, and monetary policy. It's like juggling while riding a unicycle. Complex, but doable with skill and patience. So what's the takeaway? Stay informed, stay curious, and understand the economic policy. Much like weather forecasting, often involves navigating through predictability. Drop a like if you enjoyed today's breakdown and share your thoughts below about Austan Goolsbee. What do you think about the Fed's approach to inflation, for instance? That would be great to hear about it. Okay, guys, Austan Goolsbee expressed as a conclusion, well, no more like a conclusion in the summary, expressed concern about managing public expectations around inflation effectively, even when actual inflation rates have risen. He discussed challenge of avoiding the unanchoring of inflation expectations, which could make controlling inflation significantly harder. This is often referred to as the Volcker's effect, where persistent high expectations of inflation can reinforce actual inflation, complicating the Federal Reserve's efforts to control inflation. Goolsbee emphasized the importance of data-driven decisions in monetary policy, suggesting that the Federal Reserve needs to sniff more data before making further policy adjustments. So this leads me to say that possibly interest rates are not going down as fast as the market is predicting. This cautious approach of Goolsbee's approach reflects his concern about prematurely assuming that current monetary policy stance is sufficient, or that inflationary pressures have subsided without further evidence. Overall, Goolsbee remarks highlighted his focus on the nuanced balance of responding economic indicators while managing public and market expectations about future monetary policy. Let's zero in on some insights from Tom Barkin, a key figure at the Federal Reserve, and what his observations mean for us. Whether you are just a student starting your career, a business owner, or just plain curious about the economy, first up, let's talk about economic health and monetary policy. Barkin is ringing the alarm bells on inflation, folks. It's still too high, which means don't expect those interest rates drop anytime soon. The Fed is walking a tightrope here, trying to balance robust economic growth with keeping inflation under control. It's a complex dance of numbers and policies that has direct effects on your wallet. Moving on to labor dynamics, there's a real squeeze in the job market. I think even though when I have presented that there is a slight decline or like a decline that is like a slow motion, I believe that there are already many people affected by the policies. Many people that I know are starting to complain here in the UK, for instance, which obviously the Fed's policies affects all the world. All central bankers follow up the Fed in these matters. But let's come back. Moving on to labor market dynamics, there's a real squeeze in job market, especially in essential sectors like healthcare, education, and government. I am from the education sector, and yes, it is in there. Demand for workers is sky high, and it's not just about filling position, but how wage pressures can steer the inflation pot even more. Larger companies might be able to handle this by bumping up wages, but smaller firms. So I think this might be a good hint about us, our investments, possibly larger companies. I think there would be, if this is true, like a better investment. So smaller firms, they are feeling the pinch, and that impacts everyone from the CEO to the part-time workers. Next, let's tackle business challenges and industry insights. For Barkin, COVID-19 pandemic threw a wrench in the global supply chains, and I think yes, of course, I think there is consensus about that, and we are still seeing the ripples. Barkin is closely watching how business adapt from changing their pricing strategies to overhauling supply chain logistics. These shifts are crucial as companies big and small try to navigate the post-pandemic world. And what about regional economic concerns? Whether you are in a bustling city or a quiet small town, the economic challenges vary widely. Urban centers and rural areas alike face housing shortages and a need for more childcare options, affecting how communities thrive or struggle. I will say that this factor is one of the things that is actually keeping the prices of rents and housing high. So diving deeper into sector-specific observations, because I think this is very interesting for investing strategies, Barkin has his eyes on manufacturing and construction. How are interest rates affecting these industries? Plus, the shift in consumer behavior post-pandemic has businesses scrambling to adjust to the spending habits. Lastly, financial health and credit availability. Access to capital remains a critical hurdle, especially for small businesses. Another important hint here for our investing. I think is reinforcing that possibly it will be better to look at bigger companies, healthier companies as well, not indebted companies. Because tighter lending conditions can choke growth, making it tougher for startups and established businesses to expand or even keep the lights on. Through Barkin lens or through Barkin's mind, we get a panoramic view of the economic landscape, showing us the intricate blend of macroeconomic strategies and the real world impacts. So whether it's about understanding the Fed next move or how labor shortages could affect your next job offer, it's all connected. Okay, Tom Barkin concerns, in summary, as highlighted in the document Navigating Data Whiplash, focus on several key areas affecting the economy within his district, which covers the southern east of US. So in terms of labor market challenges, Barkin pays close attention to labor market conditions, including shortages and the difficulty of filling jobs, especially in smaller companies and rural areas. He notes initiatives like apprenticeship programs aimed at aligning local workforce skills with job market demands. In terms of real estate and housing market, he's concerned about the impact of rising interest rates on real estate activities, particularly how they influence homeowner behavior and developer decisions. Barkin discusses the challenges small towns face in attracting developers, which is crucial for expanding local housing stock to support the economic growth. In the economic impact of interest, Barkin explores how the Federal Reserve interest rate hikes impact various sectors, especially real estate. He's interested in how these rates influence bank lending practices and overall economic activity, including how businesses respond to tighter monetary policy. In terms of business operational challenges, Barkin highlights concerns about supply chain issues and the availability of credit. These factors are particularly pressing for small and medium-sized enterprises. In terms of regional economic development, finally, Barkin focuses on the specific economic conditions and challenges for the smaller communities with his district. He emphasized the need for proactive local government actions and businesses community engagement to attract investment and support sustainable economic development. Right, this is the third Fed president that we are going to cover here. This is Susan M. Collins, and we are analyzing the reflections on uncertainty and patience in monetary policy making. So let's take a fresh take from Susan M. Collins, president of the Boston Fed, on the uncertainty and the patience required in the current environment. Okay, so first up, Collins kicks off with a punchline optimism about inflation hitting back to that cozy 2% target, but with a twist of realism due to ongoing risks and uncertainties. That's like expecting a smooth ride in a bumper car arena. She points out that the tough jobs of sizing up strong economic activity with the Fed's dual goals, it's a balancing act that sometimes feels like walking a tightrope over a bustling market street. Exciting, yet kinda scary. Colin emphasizes patience like a master chef waiting for the perfect simmer. The economy needs slow cooking, and I think there are many people cooked at the moment, especially those who have been fired. They are not going to be able to find many job openings now. So the economy needs slow cooking for her to align demand with supply, ensuring everything melts beautifully without burning the bottom. Collins' approach underlines a cautious but proactive stance in managing monetary policy to support economic recovery while also ensuring price stability. Her remarks reveal a deep concern for the intricate balance required in monetary policy to navigate current economic challenges effectively. And speaking of recipes, the Fed's approach might need a pinch of this and dash of that to get things just right. It's all about fine-tuning those interest rates to tame inflation without crashing the party. The labor market is getting its groove back to showing signs of a better matchup between job availability and job seekers. Imagine a dance floor where everyone finds the perfect dance partner. In general, I think she sees that because there are less opportunities, I think the job market is balancing out a little bit more. But here's the kicker. Collins throws in a spotlight on wages catching up with past prices without fueling further inflation. And that is pretty much interesting. because obviously if wages increases, I think that can fuel further inflation, and more in the current fiscal stance of the government in the United States. So that is a delicate dance of numbers and expectations, ensuring everybody gets a fair share. So what's the takeaway? Stay informed, stay patient, and keep a keen eye on those economic indicators. It's all about the long game. So this is another Fed that is actually talking about the long run. I think we need to feel more pain actually in order to control inflation and take it to 3%. I think that is my opinion, though, no, not the opinion of anyone else. I think the pain. So yes, if you found today's breakdown helpful, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and for more insightful updates, drop your thoughts and comments below. Susan M. Collins, as outlined in her speech, expressed several significant concerns regarding the economic landscape and the challenges in achieving the federal dual mandate of price stability and maximum employment. She talked about inflation management, emphasizing the challenge of bringing inflation back to 2%. She acknowledged the persistence of higher than desired inflation and all the complexities involved in managing inflation expectations. In terms of monetary policy uncertainty, she says that the timing and full impact of monetary policy action are surrounded by this uncertainty. So she stresses the fact that we need more patience. I think this patience means keep the rates high, an holistic approach to policy making, and waiting for the unpredictable nature of economic recovery and external economic pressures. In terms of labor market dynamics, so I think she's happy about the alignment of supply and demand in the labor market. And she's particularly focused on the relationship between wage growth, labor productivity, and price stability. I will say that I differ a lot from her. Even though when I have seen like in a slow motion decreasing levels of employment and open job openings and other figures, I believe that everything is feeling a bit different now, at least in my environment. And that makes me hesitate a lot in being, for instance, bullish in the stock market, as many are at the moment. So in terms of economic rebalancing, she talks about the necessity of rebalancing the economy, where a slower growth might be required to achieve a sustainable match between supply and demand. So cooling down growth as well. So that is not good for businesses, which earnings have been just remarkable in the recent quarter. And yes, she remarks as well about make some comments about the data-driven policy adjustments and the importance of basing policy decisions on available data. She emphasizes the role of continuing monitoring, etc. Collins' concerns reflect a cautious yet proactive stance on steering monetary policy to support a sustainable and balanced economic growth while navigating significant challenges of uncertain economic conditions and inflation management. Okay, guys, so I think that is what I wanted to cover with you. Just to make a very nice comparison, the similarities between these speakers or presidents are the following. First one, the focusing on inflation. So Collins is concerned about persisting high inflation. Goolsbee discusses the challenge of inflation expectations becoming unanchored and Barkin acknowledged the ongoing battle against high inflation rates. So they are focused on inflation, guys, and I think markets should not be like cheering up a lot of interest rate decreases at the moment. So the number two, I will say, is the importance of the labor market. Collins and Barkin discussed the labor market dynamics extensively in these uh, um, documents or speeches that recordings that I cover. And Collins talked about the need for wages to catch up without spurring additional inflation, while Barkin explores how labor shortages are affecting actually local businesses. Another third similitude is the monetary policy stance. Each speaker discusses the need for careful monetary policy adjustments. Right, and data-driven policy decisions. Right, in terms of differences, I think differences are important. I think they bring a lot of topics to think about. The first one is the regional focus and the implications. So Barking actually is showing that we are going to have like divergences in regional economic issues across the country. So for his district, for instance, labor shortages in small towns and the challenges locals in industries and the challenges that local industries face. And Collins and Goolsbee, while addressing broad economic indicators and national policy implications, actually they do not focus as much on regional specifics. Another difference are business interactions. Barkin's document is unique and detailed in interactions with local businesses, giving insight into the practical explanations of economic policies. In terms of economic outlook and tone, Goolsbee's comments reveal a nuanced optimism about the economy's ability to handle inflation without severe repercussions, partly due to effective Fed communication. Collins, while optimistic about returning inflation to target, stresses the uncertainty and the need for a cautious approach. Barkin's narrative centered around his stores provides a ground-level view of the optimism and challenges with local economies, which is a more hands approach. In summary, while all three Fed's officials emphasize the importance of controlling inflation and assessing labor market dynamics, their approaches and emphasis differ. Collins and Goolsbee provide a more traditional formal outlook on broad economic policies, while Barkin offers a unique perspective by integrating direct feedback from local businesses to shape his understanding of the economic landscape. And I think I am more in the side of Barkin at the moment because economic data obviously has certain delay. Okay, so based on the discussions from Federal Reserve officials that we are discussing, um, well, there are implications for financial markets, including trading bonds and stocks. So here's my economic overview, my economic opinion. So the first one is that we have persistent inflation concerns. All three officials highlight the ongoing concerns about inflation. In terms of labor market dynamics, I think there is a strong focus on labor market conditions, particularly a balance between labor supply and labor demand, wage growth and productivity. So I think these factors are going to be crucial to understand the potential for wage-driven inflation in the future. And I think that is going to be a very difficult balancing act for the Fed as wages do not really depend on them. In terms of interest rate environment, the discussions underscore the importance of interest rate policies in managing the conditions, the economic conditions. So recent increases in interest rates to combat inflation could have cooling effects on economic activities, which obviously will affect bond and stock markets. What are the implications for bonds? I think the first one will be interest rate sensitivity. So as interest rates rise, bond prices typically fall, and the inverse is also true. So investors in bonds and should be cautious of the impact for further rate hikes or policy shifts on their bond portfolio measures. Another important for bonds is the long-term outlook. So there is a lot of uncertainty expressed by the Fed officials about the economic outlook and the effectiveness of the current policy to affect inflation. Yes, so that the long-term bonds could be subject to price volatility as market participants assess risk and return profiles in light of evolving economic data. I think the yield curve reinversion, I think, is going to be very interesting to see if that is going to happen this year, which I believe it is possible. So having some investments in treasuries might be worthwhile. Another one is the implications for stocks. So stocks are likely to remain sensitive to economic indicators related to inflation, labor markets, and consumer spending. So positive signs of wage growth and employment could boost consumer confidence and spending. Let's see if that happens. At the moment, consumer confidence is down the floor. And if that carries on, I think the consequences might be in a recession. Very interesting, there are sector-specific impacts that we need to follow actually and discern and discuss to make like sound investing. For instance, sectors sensitive to interest rates like real estate and utilities might face challenges going ahead. In contrast, technology and consumer discretionary sectors might benefit more from improvements in labor market conditions and consumer spending. If consumer spending goes down, obviously technology might have some troubles as well, especially those who are consumer spending depending. In terms of volatility and trading strategy, given the current uncertainties, traders should expect a continued market volatility. So I don't think actually that people will need or should feel very bullish all the time. It is possible that we are going to have bullish moments and contractionary moments. Meanwhile, the economy adjusts to 2%. That is the goal. So a cautious approach might be needed. So a diversified portfolio. I am embracing a lot of treasuries at the moment. And attention, this is like an attention to the Fed communications. And I think looking ahead, I think it's going to be important to keep looking at what the Fed thinks for navigating this environment. So the conversation from these three officials provide a valuable insight into the Fed's current thinking on economic conditions and policy. So for market participants, the key takeaway is the need for vigilance and adaptability in terms of response to evolving economic indicators and Fed policy decisions. So we need to be very adaptable, being able to sell given different Fed policy decisions. So monitoring their communications for clues about future policy directions, especially regarding interest rates, is crucial for making informed investment decisions for both markets, bonds and stocks. Thank you very much, and do not forget to subscribe.